Good evening, everyone. With a quorum of members present, I'll call the Public Health and Safety Committee for Monday, September 15th, 2025 to order. We'll note that Alder Larson is excused for this meeting this evening. He had a schedule conflict for tonight. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting, 8/18 of 25. Did anyone note any adjustments they wanted for the minutes? If not, we'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Motion from Watson. Is there a second? Second from Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 2 is to consider approval or denial of various license applications. And let me just bring up the packet here quick enough. Okay. And I believe we did not have denials for tonight, right? There was no denials. So in there, you have a number of events. You've got a Class B, a Class C, approval recommendations. Those are reviewed by staff, Class B beer and Class C wine. Picnic licenses for a number of events. A celebration of life car and bike show, sip and stroll, fun at 5, empty bowls, turkey trot. Anybody have any questions on any of those events? If not, I would take a motion to accept or deny licenses as recommended by staff. Motion from Watson. Is there a second? Second from Lukens. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Then we've got item number 3 is to consider request granting a 90-day extension to open for business for good cause for Truly's Eatery and Bar at 1810 Merrill Avenue. We knew that Truly's, when we approved the license, would be having some remodeling and construction and things going on. I guess, do we have a representative from Truly's here this evening? If you want to come up and talk to us about how it's been going and how much work you have left yet.
So my name is Lee, and so due to the building being so much older than we expected, we ran into a lot of issues. Floors rotting, wallpaper. We had to tear that all down. It was 2 layers.
Wow.
And yeah, so overall, it just took us way longer than we expected, and so we had to do a lot of these adjustments just so that, it's safer for the customers and community when we have people come in. And yeah, that's just my reasoning. It's just taking us way longer than we expected.
When do you anticipate opening? I mean, how much more time do you need?
We're hoping the end of October and then early November, but it's all still to be determined as we keep running into issues after issues after issues.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So our request is for a 90-day extension. So that should get you to that point. I mean, that should get you just about to December, right? So you'll have a good section of the rest of this year to get that up and running. So if you would need a couple extra weeks or something, if you're within that 90-day time frame, you'd be okay. Committee members, how do you feel about that extension if they have work continuing? Is there a motion then to accept and grant the 90-day extension? Motion from Lukens. Is there a second? Second from Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You bet. Item number 4 is to consider request granting a temporary extension of premise for the Class B beer and liquor license for Matt's 101 Pub at 101 North 3rd Avenue and Brewer Entertainment LLC. Matt Brewer is the agent for that one. That goes hand in hand with item number 5. You'll recall from past years, Matt's 101 Pub and Chatterbox have an event that they do together where we extend their premises each into the middle of Elm Street, and they have a block party type vibe for one night a year. So Matt's here. If you guys have any questions for him. Does anyone you want to talk to us, I guess, about the event?
Yeah, this will be our 3rd year, so thank you for the last 2 years of supporting us. The event continues to grow. We've not had any problems or issues to date. People in the neighborhood seem to really enjoy it, and so we would ask that you continue to support us having this event. Boone, or Dan Moss, is the other owner of Chatterbox, and he is supportive as well, and we're excited to have it again this year with your support.
Great. And what we've seen, I think, with the first couple years is that the two of you working together, both as responsible owners, have been able to really find something that not only expands the offerings for the day, but it really creates something in the neighborhood that is well managed. I mean, we've just not had issues there, so.
Absolutely. We start planning this literally 6 months before we do it, and Boone and I are involved in all of the activities. We know what we're doing now after about 3 years.
Sure.
And so this is really coming together well. So
Okay.
we're really excited this year.
Perfect. Do we have a motion then from within the committee to grant that premise extension to Matt's 101 Pub? Motion from Watson, is there a second? Second from Lukens, further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed, so that one is passed. Thank
Thank you.
you. Item number 5 is the same exact thing for Chatterbox on the other side of the street. Do we have a motion? The item reads, consider request granting temporary extension of premise for the Class B beer and liquor license for Chatterbox located at 102 South Second Avenue. Dan Moss is the petitioner for that one. Is there a petition or a motion to approve that one as well? Motion from Watson, second from Lukens. Discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries as well. So thank you for coming in. Good luck with the event.
Do you have a tavern section as well this evening other than this portion?
Um,
I'm also on the board of directors.
the tavern activities report at the end.
Perfect. I'll be here for
Okay,
that as well.
all right, sounds good. Item number 6 is to consider for a waiver of financial judgments prior to issuance of a license or permit due to extraordinary financial hardship for Christopher Cron, applicant for a new bartender or operator license. Typically, what we do with licenses is when folks or establishments owe the city a significant amount, we often will hold license issuance until those balances are paid. I assume that's the situation here. So that sometimes does also create a situation where if a person can't work, they can't pay us. So one by one, we consider a request to issue the license. Is Christopher Cron here this evening? Christopher Cron? He is not. All right, so committee, you will have to decide based on the circumstances if you want to make a motion to waive that judgment to allow the license issuance to Mr. Cron. Go ahead, Cody.
I do also want to note that I did have a conversation with Christopher and did make him aware of this meeting to come forward with any information that he had to give you guys help making that decision.
Okay. So this license, if we would choose to issue it, I assume would renew July 1st with all the others. Okay, well, and I guess where I was going with that was that if that substantial balance has not been satisfied and is going to continue into a subsequent licensing year, that's something that we maybe would have to have a discussion with him about for next year. I feel like, I mean, if you give the license now, it's good till the end of June, right? So that does give a substantial amount of time, but we would certainly hope that we wouldn't have to renew the license again with a substantial balance outstanding still. So, go ahead, Carol.
So he requested the waiver of it then in order to, okay. Yeah, I guess when would the new licensing year be? July?
July 1st.
Okay.
Do we know what the amount is that's outstanding still?
It is 17,
1703.
yeah. And I
Okay.
did include an invoice of what is owed to the city in the supplemental packet that goes out just to the committee because I didn't want
Sure.
everyone to have to know that
Right.
information. But yeah, that was 1,700.
Okay. Well, that's one thing we've looked at as well, because when it's been commercial establishments and it was way more than could be satisfied in a reasonable period of time, sometimes we had struggles with that as well. So is there a motion from the committee to grant that waiver to allow Christopher Cron to possess the license even with the balance outstanding? Motion from Lukens, is there a second? Second from Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. Item number 7 is discussion and possible action awarding the contract to a vendor for refuse and recycling and authorizing contract development. Mary Ann has been working tirelessly, I believe, on lining up some options for refuse and recycling. Do we have a presentation from her this evening on this?
I believe she was intending on being here, and she might be on her way right now.
We could hold her item actually for the end if she's not here, because I feel like we're going to need some guidance from her, both on the process and the bids. I mean, that's too large of a contract for us to award without hearing from her. So we'll hold that for now. We'll move on to item number 8, which is, she is here? Okay. She's here. We're ready for you.
Yeah, I couldn't find it broadcasting on YouTube.
Oh, okay. All right. So we are up to that item, discussion and possible action on awarding a contract to a vendor for refuse and recycling and authorizing contract development. And I guess, Mary Ann, did you want to just briefly, both for us and for the public, just kind of give us an overview of the bid process and, you know, where we're at with that and what your recommendations are?
So we've had our current contract for 10 years. When we negotiated that contract, obviously that was a really big deal for us because we moved to a completely carted, automated collection. And we had started the process January 1, and obviously getting new carts delivered right at the holidays and having people have to use them right at the holidays, and if old ones needed to be collected, it was a difficult time. So we extended the contract, so it went for 10 years and 3 months. So it expires March 31st of 2026, which would get us past the winter season if we had to change contractors, get new carts, things like that. So anyhow, we put it out for RFP. We received 2 quotes, one from Waste Management, one from Harder's. I had sent out the proposals to these 2 suppliers and to GFL. We did receive an email from GFL saying they weren't interested in bidding. I also reached out to Dave Hagenbusher from Marathon County Solid Waste to see if he was aware of specific suppliers in the area that he thought would be good. He wasn't aware of any others. We did publish it in the newspaper, and it was on our website. So we issued the RFP. We did get some questions that we responded to, and on September 10th at 11 a.m., the Board of Public Works opened the proposals using basically the exact same collection system that we have today. So there's no changes in service levels at all. Harder's came in at the low proposal, which is $11.50, $7.65. This is per household for refuse, and $3.85 for recycling, for a total of $11.50. Our expiring contract is at $8.29. So our total annual charge for that is $1.4 million. You know, over the 10 years, that contract has been very good to the city because there was a 2% inflationary increase built into that contract. And obviously, we know through COVID, through the last few years, CPI has been significantly more than that. So when we actually bid this out in 2015, we were paying $1.8 million for the service. 10 years later, we were paying $1.4 million. So it really goes to show you how advantageous using a carded system is, and how competitive the quotes were. Looking at the quotes that we received, obviously there's a little bit of a sticker shock there, moving to $11.50, but looking at some contracts in other parts of the state, including Weston's, I still feel like this is a great price for the city. And so I would recommend going forward with Harder's. If, you know, I had them propose on a 7-year contract and a 10-year contract. Last year, we got a discount for the 10-year contract. We paid, you know, it was considered more favorable to the contractor. You can see that neither one of the contractors gave us any incentive to go with a 10-year. I would say the one thing about going with the 10-year, the carts are supposed to last 20 years. So we will have, like used up the carts at the end of 10 years. If you wanted to extend it for 10 years, there is an inflation built in, which is for Harder's a CPI and then a fuel price adjustment when diesel is greater than $4 a gallon. Waste Management had similar CPI, but they had added if there was a landfill increase. So I guess it would be up to the committee whether they wanted to go with a 10-year contract or a 7-year contract, but Harder's is the low bidder there.
Right. It looks like in either option, I mean, obviously the difference being almost $500,000 a year.
Yes.
The low bidder being the service that we currently have that we are already familiar with, that residents seem to function well under.
Yep.
That said, I feel like even without a price incentive for us to commit to 10 years, the cost of everything exponentially is higher every year. We always talk about the cost of doing nothing and the time value of money. So if you can lock something in at a rate for 10 years versus 7 years, I feel like there's no way that this isn't going to cost more in 10 years. It's going to cost more in 8 years. It's going to cost more in 9 years. And it really boils down to the predictability of the service. I mean, obviously, if they have to equip and staff, they already are to serve our community. That also adds an element of like certainty, the commitment is there. But we also then are fixing that price for 3 years longer, staving off what could be, it's an inevitable increase, it's just how much, right? So,
And I again would recommend it go through March 31st, just knowing that if you did have contractors changing right at the Christmas holiday, it really is.
It's rough.
I spent like most of Thanksgiving that year talking to the people that were delivering the carts because they had it. I don't know why they wanted to deliver
right.
then, but they
delivered
did.
them in the winter, people couldn't use them, they started using them too soon, it was hard.
It was hard.
Right. So it took a while, and they all came with instructions, and that was a learning curve for everyone to know what to put out and when, and that garbage doesn't belong in the green one, and,
Yeah.
right, so, obviously, I'm sure the Finance Committee is gonna have to mull this over as well, right? Are you,
Yeah.
as part of your budget, so I mean, we're making a recommendation to Finance as far as which one to adopt, right?
Yes.
So I think the other discussion that I would hope that they have in finance is to weigh the merits of leaving the trash fees contained as part of the levy, or at some point in some budget year, do they want to start to consider or weigh what the cost per household would be to levy a flat charge and remove trash from the levy? I mean, obviously, that could have a very positive impact on our mill rate, and it would bring consistency. Obviously, everyone's putting out the same garbage every week in the same container, and we don't have this. We used to have a lot of diversity as far as how many containers and vessels people would put out. Some had way more than others. I mean, it does add an element of fairness in the rate. If you're putting out the same container every week, you should really be paying the same fee. And leaving trash on the levy is not that way at all. I mean, there's a major disparity between home value and the cost that people pay for that service, right? So,
And state law for levy limits says that we have to look at what we were levying back in 2013. And if we have to basically remove that levy. If we would move to a charge, we'd have to remove that levy, and then we would be able to create a charge, so that we can't basically
It
increase
becomes an equal
our revenue
balance.
generation. Yes, and
Right.
like I said, we were paying 1.8 in 2016, so we would basically have to remove pretty much the entire refuse. We wouldn't be able to pass any of the refuse. Now, the law does not speak to recycling, so that would be a revenue potential, but
Right.
for refuse, we'd have to remove the levy.
Right, and those are all discussions that finance can
Yeah,
undertake
that's-
as they're trying to grind their way through the budget. So I guess in terms of service, and, obviously, we see the money of this too. What are your thoughts, committee? Go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. I have a number of questions or comments, both. So that's what I've wondered about that's what I was going to ask, like how is the cost passed on? And as far as, having residents pay. So I have very little trash. ever. So I have that big container, and you know, if, like, okay, for that, if, what I'm curious about is there a pay-as-you dispose
Throw.
system? There's not. Could there be? Would there be? What about other, and other municipalities? Do they all use the same? Are we all using the same?
Carts, yes.
No, are we all using the same company? Surrounding in the
think,
Wausau metro area?
I don't know, but I know Weston just moved to Harder's. I don't really know, but I do think they pick up a lot of the area.
Because, you know, I'm just curious, I've been doing some research on this. You know, part of it too with trash is behaviors, like what we know, behaviors and education. So what we throw away. And I know on the sustainability committee, we've been trying to create more education for people. And I know that that's a tall task, right?
Well,
How would
that's-
we do that?
Yes, totally, and that's
but-
why the garbage container is so much smaller.
Yeah, that's best practice.
Yeah, but, I mean, the more that, depending upon what we're throwing away too, then methane and, you know, I mean, for many, many, many reasons, there are, like, there are cities that have gone to composting pickups and greatly, greatly reduced the amount of trash that's going to the landfill. So, like, I mean, I'm kind of curious, like, do we do the same thing? It's a lot of money. And I understand it's a necessary service. But at the same time, do we keep doing the same thing for another 10 years? Or do we look, is there anything else we can do? I'm kind of curious
So
about
when
that.
we brought this to you in February, that was the time to make
Right.
those comments before we put it out for RFP, because that was basically our question to you is the service level appropriate? And then we bid based on the discussion of, yes, the service level is appropriate. Now, I can tell you that Andy, before he left the city up in planning, he had received a call, I believe it was from Sue's, thinking maybe they were interested in a composting program. Obviously, we have the yard waste, so if people want to rent a cart, they can do that, and their yard waste is picked up. We have a yard waste site, so yard waste can be put in there. I put in all my vegetable scraps in my yard waste container, even though I don't have a garden, because I figure if I had a garden, it would go in there. So, but in addition to that, I think, you know, you have to be very careful about what is in there because you don't want to contaminate it. But at the time they were exploring this, Harder's had said, hey, we would not be opposed to someone coming in and doing a trial composting system. My kids live in Milwaukee. They subscribe to one, but, you know, it's a much bigger city than we have, and so they can, you know, probably support more services. And it's not run by the city. It's a private company that does it.
So it'd have to be something that
Milwaukee.
people would enroll in
Yeah, like
individually,
the
much like the
compass.
curbside yard waste pickup
Yeah,
is right now.
Yeah, I think they're called the Compost Crusaders or something like that, that my
Sure.
kids subscribe to in Milwaukee. But they, you know, they have a separate container and they put it in there. And all their, you know, their coffee grinds, their eggshells, their
Yep.
bones and
Right.
whatever go in there.
I think that's something to work towards. I think at some point, you know, if there would be public interest in something like that, you know, whether it was a central drop-off or
Right.
whether it was, if we had enough for a curbside, who knows? I don't know what the uptake is on curbside yard waste pickup even. I don't know how many of those we have where they pick them up every
Yeah.
Thursday. I think there's quite a few.
Yeah.
You see them around neighborhoods. More people are doing it. It's convenient. But, you know, do we have enough to generate yet another service? I think if
Right.
it's something people source on their own and then pay for on their own, you know, at least for now, something like that would make sense if they decide to try it. But I think right now, we know how much garbage we produce. We may not like that we have that much, but I also like the fact that we did decide back then to make the trash container smaller That sends a message, because I think our recycling increased tremendously
40%
when we
or
gave this great big container and we got rid of this little green box that nothing fit in and the stuff doesn't blow all over. Like, there were serious benefits to going carded and making the recycling larger. So I feel like that was a win, way back when we first went to this.
Right. And I'm not sure if I finished my thought before, but the point I was trying to make with Sue's is Harders at the time said they would not be opposed to another hauler doing something like that, a service that they weren't providing. But typically, our contract is the exclusive right to, pick up garbage in the city
Sure.
for curbside pickup. Obviously, commercial can do whatever they want. But they said they wouldn't mind at all.
Okay.
So we can talk about that during contract negotiations.
For sure.
And I just want to say, I know when it came up in February, I thought about it then. I've had a family member medical issue, so I just didn't have the bandwidth then
Got it.
to be able to, I'm finally starting to, so
Okay.
I understand that, and thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something too with regard to, like, as we work on partnering with our partners in the Sustainability Committee, public education is huge for like what you throw out and what you don't, and, getting people to take stock of, I mean, it's as simple as like a lot of places you go, you'll see a container that says recycle or landfill, because some people just put stuff in the garbage, don't
yeah.
realize that means landfill, and I think just the messaging, like, we could get around that without even modifying our contract, I think if we educate better, and that's separate from this, but given the money components of this, and we know what the service level is that we've expected from Harders that they've delivered, I felt like through the discussion, we were heading for a motion to recommend to finance that they develop a contract with Harders, and are we interested in the 10 years? That's, Sarah, go ahead.
I mean, I do see the advantage of having 10 years because it locks in the price. But I also, I don't know, like also hope that maybe we'll come up with something different in, I don't know, like maybe there'll be something changing with how we trash stuff, how we recycle stuff, maybe. I don't know. 7 years is a long time.
True.
But I mean, I do see the benefit. So I'm sort of torn. Like part of me is like, it's sort of nice to have some wiggle room to be able to reevaluate our choice in 7 years. But, so I'm on the fence. I don't know if you guys have any other arguments.
I like
for
the
it.
idea of kicking the can of the large increase in the contract down the road 3 extra years, quite frankly. I mean, if people's disposal habits change and our public education is better and maybe people throw out less and whatever, but I really think that in terms of most municipal services, just based on economics, the cost is going up no matter what. And so I feel like if you can get 10 years for the price of 7 years, there's an advantage to having that extra time. Like, go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, I guess I was like thinking about what Marion said, like we pivoted from like just regular to standardized bins and that dropped us for 400,000. I don't know. You said it went from 1.8 to 1.4 or something like that.
Saved about 700,000.
700,000.
That's
So
a
that's
lot.
like that's all amazing. So I'm like, not that I know anything about the future of trash collection and refuse collection, but I mean, maybe is something that we could pivot in 7 years and like save another $750,000. I don't know.
Thoughts? I'll take a motion for either one. Whatever you want to recommend to finance, they've got to incorporate something into the 26, and then later, they've got a plan for it, so.
I would move to recommend the 7-year plan.
Okay, we have a motion from Watson to recommend contract development with Harders for 7-year commitment. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Lukens. Further discussion? If not, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Record that has passed unanimously.
Thank you.
That said, I like the idea of the 10 years, but I can live with the 7. So, all right. That then brings us to item number 8, which is a presentation and discussion on the process and tools used for property code enforcement. Periodically, we do like to conduct some training for ourselves and information for the public. And one thing that had occurred to me a while back that we have not talked about in a really long time is municipal code enforcement. And so our inspection department and our inspection team is out. They have daily contact with the public. And often there are conditions that, we get called as alders to address, and that City Hall gets called where, codes aren't being followed. And just to understand the process that our inspectors use, from the report of the violation to the resolution to citations where municipal court becomes a factor. I think that, that matters as far as us understanding like the work they do, and the public understanding really from start to finish how the inspection department runs. So I'd asked Bill to just put together a little presentation. He had recently given a similar presentation for the Landlord Association. And I thought it would be helpful for us to hear some of this from him and be able to ask our questions. And so Bill has a little presentation for us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot I had in the packet, but I just wanted to get some dialogue and be happy for any questions that you may have. Every year we seemingly go through a up and down of what's going on. Some years we have snow complaints, other years we have a lot of weed complaints, but the top 3 violations we have every year are tall grass, exterior yards, and vehicles. And so we try different ways to do that. We try sending notices, we try leaving door hangers, we try talking to people if we can get somebody to answer the door. And we also have that rental registration, so every property in Wausau has to be registered with either the property owner or property manager, so we got a number to call someone. That's been helpful. We're trying to get staff to use that more, and it's received good feedback. But in order for us to prosecute it, we still do have to send a notice, a formal notice, if we want to go that route. I believe this one was in the packet, the top 10 list. So it's pretty much standard. We try to do education. We try putting things in the newsletters. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at the Wausau packet that City Hall staff kind of put together that outlines a lot of the common questions that people may have: animal licensing, where can I park a car, when's garbage pickup, stuff like that. So we try to make it as non-confrontational as we can. This summer I also met with the apartment association, shared a lot of that information with them. It was a pretty good crowd. It was a good conversation. So we do have, when I first started and about 15 years ago, we did everything by paper, but now we have a software system that we can log a complaint in, and it automatically workflows to our inspector, whether it's on the east side or the west side. And they have that in their workflow in the morning. They come into work, go and do their inspection. They find a violation. They put it in violations on a notice. It's all standardized, kind of a templated letter with just basic information. And we get as many complaints as we do compliments on them. So I figure we're about right with how our letters are worded. But after that letter or case, we call them a case, has come due, it generates a follow-up inspection. So the inspector will go back out and do another inspection. Timelines, we do ask for timelines. Some things, obviously moving a vehicle or picking up trash is a lot easier than repairing your roof. So in some of the bigger cases, we try to ask for a timeline and hold people accountable to those timelines if possible.
So I guess on the simple side, just like for your average case, and this is what I get asked a lot by citizens. You did a fantastic presentation, by the way, about permits and permitting and inspections at my neighborhood group. So that's kind of what put the bug in my ear, is that it's helpful when people understand like what to expect when they see or report a violation. So let's just say on your average day, I send an email that I got a complaint from somebody that says, house A has garbage piled up all over the boulevard. The garbage cans never get taken in. They've added trash that Harders won't take. Like, it never moves. Tenants moved out and there's stuff everywhere and it's, like falling in the street. Like, what happens when that call comes in terms of time? Like, what should the resident across the street expect, I guess, to see or not?
Yeah, so we do have quality control and reporting in our software, so 97% of our cases that get called in are done within 2 days. Somebody's out there inspecting it within 2 days, a letter's sent out. And then we usually give them a 5-day notice, and a mail takes 3 days or 4 days to get there. But it could be up to a week after the first initial call, or after the initial call where they get the first initial due date, and then we follow back up. Typically, we're doing 5,000 letters a year. Most of them are self-correcting within that first time frame. So,
Yep. And when they don't, you said the reinspection gets generated, they go back, they look at it again, nothing's done. So then they notify them again, right, with a more narrow, or do they cite them right away? Like
no, we're doing a second letter.
second notice, okay,
We have a workflow.
okay,
We're
yep,
trying to standardize our system. A second letter goes out, and then if that fails to, if we don't hear from them, or they fail to comply, then a citation's issued.
okay. And the citation comes with a court date, right? So if they've not corrected or they've not made contact to make some kind of arrangements or paid the ticket, then along comes the court date, right?
Yep.
And of course, they either show up for the court date or don't. Assume they don't, and then a judgment gets entered, right? Municipal court judgment. And I guess where I'm going with it is that sometimes there's a misconception that I think, at least I've had conversations with citizens who believe that the city has all kinds of tools in the toolbox to remediate and rectify what gets left, right? And so I had a conversation with someone just recently where I said, understand that the number one tool in the municipal toolbox for this is money fines. And so what you could have is a bunch of money fines, and that trash can is still there, or the sofa is still there, or the garbage is still there. Like, if people just are not going to self-correct, and you find them, and they're either fine immune or don't care, like, the tools aren't there. I mean, if you had to go in and try to abate a property that's in terrible shape, or you had to try to secure a court order for them to clear something out, that's a longer process, right? So,
Yes, yep, and Ann's office has helped us over the years with a variety of issues. It's a little easier to go in and grab a few bags of trash in the front yard than it is to, demo a house, or raise order a house, or have
Sure.
abate a car that has actual value. So then we have to, go to the circuit court. It can't be just the municipal court judge to get approval to do that.
right. And I think that was really what I think as alders, it really is kind of up to us to manage people's expectations. I think after they call us with something that's persisting and they maybe don't see something happening right away, they can't assume nothing's happening. They also have to be realistic, or we have to manage their expectations for what actually can happen. And it's not that the week after the phone call comes that a white pickup truck with a Wausau logo on the door comes and like cleans up the stuff. Like, it just doesn't quite work that way. And so, there's times where if it's a persistent case, it could take a really long time to get resolved. And I think that then is where, I think we see, sometimes it's conflict between neighbors. Sometimes it's frustration where one neighbor says, well, I can't get away with this, but this guy is getting away with that. And, in reality, neither one of them should be. But, what percentage of cases do you feel really rise to that level? You said most of them self-correct on the first letter. I mean, how many have we had where it's such an issue where we've had to go to that level and actually, like, order the cleanup?
We have like last year we did 360 citations, and we had 14 summons and complaints. So it's probably somewhere in that 20 to 25 a year
Sure.
range of either going in and abating it, or, I'd even roll in the raise orders. We maybe do 3 or 4 raise orders a year.
Sure. But out of 5,000 letters, that isn't very many.
No.
And so I think that sometimes it gets misunderstood as far as, it's not that there's so many of these. I think that at least when I first started, and I think when Bill was new, there was a laser focus on blight in our community, and we were working really hard to enforce code and bring properties up to code. And we had, for a long time, we had a focus on rental property that caused some tension between us and the apartment association. But at the end of the day, whether it was the maintenance of the property or whether it was, tenant issues, whether it was, that's when we created rent abatement. I mean, if there's a condition in a property that, the landlord is aware of and doesn't fix, obviously then the tenants inside become eligible for rent abatement. We've conducted some of those hearings here. And so I think that, it's helpful for us to know, like, really what makes this stuff work. So, anybody have questions for Bill? Go ahead, Becky.
I think I can bring this up even though it's not on the agenda. And Bill and I have been working on an issue that maybe should be coming in front of this committee. It is feeding of animals. He's very well aware, so is probably Melinda, because the
We've had that
police are in
before
it.
too, yes.
Well, I'm having a major problem in Riverview. We have a lot of deer, of course. They come from down Markwart, and that's always been an issue, and I've always, for 10 years, have had calls. But right now, we have certain people in the neighborhood that are feeding the deer with buckets of grain on the ground. We now have a rat problem.
Oh, no.
And I don't know, I feel this is a public health and safety issue. Bill has done, and Adam have worked. We had Lieutenant Kurtzall's work, and we're not getting any type of resolution. But we have people on Briarwood seeing rats in the middle of the day running down the street, on the sidewalks. We have residents with rat infestations that they have had to pay $5,000 to $10,000 to redo their foundations. This is a major, major problem. And I know that I had talked to the mayor and I've talked to Adam. We had DNR come in. But how do we work this? Because this is something where it was a nuisance
Yeah.
for some people having deer eating stuff. They eat I never have a daylily. It's as soon as they're blossomed.
They're gone. Yeah, mine too.
But it is not rats in our yard.
Right.
This is a public health and safety issue, and I don't know where to go with this because it's becoming more and more of an issue.
That I think does beg a question as far as, is there a public policy solution that we have to adopt? I just had a question from a resident last week talking about animal feeding, and that person had been referred to the DNR, and they'd had the DNR out. And someone from the DNR told them that there was a public policy solution that our municipality would have to adopt in terms of feeding bans and things to create a local enforcement conduit for animal feeding. Now, I know that when I first came on the council, there was a lengthy court case in District 4 for someone who was feeding animals. And, yep, and so the King House, you remember the case. So, and I think we struggled with both enforcement and policy surrounding animal feeding. And so I guess really, like, how do we as alders solve that issue if the person won't stop feeding? I mean, you have kind-hearted people who think they're doing these animals a favor, but ultimately when it's deer, that's how disease among that herd gets spread. So, and I mean, the rodent problem is a secondary and equally nasty health problem. So, like, is there a policy solution that we need to create to fill the gap?
I think we do have an ordinance against urban feeding.
So is it a matter of citing the feeders under that ordinance? Or,
I believe what they're doing is saying they're feeding the squirrels.
okay, and that's what we ran into with the other one.
So, or the
Birds.
birds or whatever.
Right.
We have video of them from neighbors dumping buckets of grain on their ground. We have 20 to 30 deer laying in our yard. I mean, I don't think, there's no way you need buckets, 10-pound buckets of grain for feeding, but that is how they kind of got around this. But we still have the problem.
Right.
So what do we do?
We had a similar problem with people feeding and enabling the feral cat herd. So, right, I mean, because people will feed stuff that they feel sorry for. in any case. So, if we have an urban deer feeding, maybe that feed ban needs to be broadened. I mean, that's a policy solution. Like, do we broaden it to other type of critters and animals? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, Bill, what would you think about having only feeding in a raised, Adam and I talked about that. No ground feeding, only feeding like in a,
Raised containers?
yeah. I mean, I don't know if that's, but Adam suggested that.
I think it's a discussion that we should have more in depth as a separate agenda item. But it does come on, it does come in where sometimes there's like a gap in the enforcement because there's only so much our inspectors can do, but sometimes it doesn't rise to the level of what the DNR can do, and then we have this gap and the condition keeps happening. So if there's a policy tool, if there's ever, when it comes to housing code, we've always said with blight and things, if there's ever an issue with housing code where we need to adjust or tweak something to make enforcement possible, not targeted to one house or another, but to actually take a policy and refine it so that it's more useful or more understandable, or expand it to meet the needs of an urban community. If that's something we need to look at, I think we all would be willing to consider those code changes if they need to be made. So, I think those discussions could continue internally, but at some point, if there's a separate agenda item to address that type of hazard, I would absolutely take it up in here.
I would very much appreciate it, and I think even if we could bring Bill and maybe even Adam back and have that discussion, because I think it will be picked up maybe by the media. We need to get some more, I know they put something in the newsletter, but I think we need more. I am getting calls every day, and I certainly don't want somebody to get bit by a rat that's running in the middle of the street in the middle of the day. I mean, and they are big. They said that they're like New York-sized rats.
Well-fed,
Yeah.
sure. So, we can certainly target that for a future agenda item. If the topic of urban animal feeding in the first place, and then we can look at maybe the enforcement tools, and if there's a gap that we believe can be filled, I think we'd all be open to consider it. I don't know if as a staff, if you want to work on that, and, we've kind of got the winter now. At least the general trend in public health and safety is once we get through event season, we have agenda space during the winter months to accommodate stuff like this, to make sure that we have our policy lined up properly for the spring, which is really when enforcement tends to ramp up, because once the snow melts, everything's visible again. So, if it's something that you guys want to take a couple months and work on, identify if we truly have a gap, and if we do, how we fix it. I think that's the conversation that we'd have here. Carol?
I've already contacted Bill and Alder Rasmussen. On the southeast side, it's been raccoons. And one resident shared photos of 3 raccoons just outside of her kitchen window. Her screen was open, and they were
Like
on
looking
her,
in from outside.
and they got in. They got
Right?
They got
Yeah.
in her house.
Yep.
She chased them out with a vacuum cleaner. She turned it on and got them chased out. But so I had heard a couple of people say rats. I haven't seen any, but I'm not saying that anyone. I don't know. But anyway, so raccoon, as you
Yeah.
know, raccoons
And there's
are
a-
quite big this year.
I agree. There's also a raccoon problem out in Forest Park, because I've heard about that from a couple folks up there near Jim Moore Creek. There's a condo there that has dumpsters, and where they can gain access to people's food and that's been a problem 2 summers in a row. So, it's not just, I think every neighborhood has something. But, if it's something where we need a better policy tool, I think that's what we would create here. So, Sarah?
Not that I don't, well, I think having a solution about the rat thing earlier might be good, because if the snow flies, they're going to go into homes. And, so if we can't, maybe that can be sort of on the front burner to try to get some resolution for those neighbors, because that sounds horrible.
Well, I guess here is the question as far as immediate resolution. Does the tool we have work? If not, and we need to expand it, to change the feeding rules, then we maybe need to do that right away. Carol?
this is just, squirrels also can do a lot of damage. I had to pay 500, they got into my attic. They crawled, they chewed through the vent.
Sure.
And I don't have any trees right next to my house, but they said they probably came on a power, I don't know, on a
Up on
power
a
line
line,
or
sure.
something. This was like 5 years ago, but yeah, they can do a lot of damage. The person that came, they live trapped, them, and, but said they can chew through siding, through vinyl siding. So anyway, I think, yeah, maybe feeding on the ground, maybe something like that would be no feeding on the ground, but, they can still climb up bird feeders and things like that, but
Right.
still.
So that's something
yeah.
that if you want to give the staff direction to research that and bring us a solution
Yeah.
to talk about, whatever it's ready, we would be happy to.
I'll make a motion for that.
Well, we don't even need to, we can agree by consensus
Oh,
on that.
okay,
You can just,
cool.
if you guys agree that you want to direct staff to review the current feeding rules and bans and restrictions, and if there's an expansion to be made to mirror the issues that we see in our urban community, that they should bring us some recommended adjustments to that rule. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that would be, that's a good point to bring up is if, we'd be glad to take those complaints, but if they call in, make sure that they let us know where, because, we can't just walk into somebody's backyard. It's really nice if a neighbor says, hey, this is the problem, you're welcome to come on our yard.
Sure.
Gaze
Well,
over
especially
my
if it's,
fence.
yes, if it's from like if they have an address for who's feeding, that's helpful, I think, right?
Yeah. Typically, it's going to be the backyard, and unless there's an alley that we can get to, it's going to be hard to
It's
see.
gonna be hard to see it, sure. Okay. Any other inspection things that you guys have questions on as far as how it works? I know Alder Larson has just recently been working with Bill's team on vehicles. He's had a persistent vehicle problem on his street and between inspections and the PD. They're working at it. It's been particularly difficult. I've had everything from vehicles to blight to rentals to snow, yards, all of it. Everything on the list at some point, I think we all get all of it. But, I think it was impactful to see like the numbers of, year by year, what those problems look like. And, and then know that most of the folks they contact really do self-correct. But in those persistent cases, that's where I think we really need to network with our team. And, whatever enforcement solutions we've created, if they've got tools to use, they use them. And, it may not be an overnight solution, but it can get solved. Carol?
It just made me think of one other thing that a resident contacted me about. I don't know if it would apply here or not, but, so fires.
Like backyard like fire
fires.
pits?
So what the resident was concerned about is when we have the air alerts, when there are the fires, that this
quality.
this resident, was saying like, is there anything we can do about backyard fires when we have air quality alerts? Because we had like air quality alerts and this resident, like people are having fires, and just said that's really hard, for breathing. I don't know if there is, but, I don't know that it's an inspections issue.
I
but-
guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought when we created recreational burn permits, that the fire department had the authority to suspend recreational burn permits en masse. Like, if the fire danger was particularly high, they could put out a bulletin and say, no recreational fires in the city this weekend, or whatever that is, if there's a chance that those things would escape containment. Individual offenders, where they're burning things they shouldn't be burning, which I've had in my neighborhood, we actually have the ability to revoke fire pit permits. If it's a habitual problem at a specific resident, and they don't self-correct after they've interacted with police and fire, we actually can conduct a hearing and pull the permit back. We had to do it in my district with one person. So that, we have consequences as a committee, but, if there's a community-wide issue, I think, Deputy Chief, do you know if that authority exists?
The authority exists when the fire danger is high.
Okay,
I don't think there's anything specific addressing air quality.
okay,
That was, sorry.
go ahead.
That was the resident's question. Since that's more of a relatively, it's a newer kind of thing in the past few years. And this resident was saying, is there anything that can be done? Like, can something be done? Can they be limited temporarily when there are air quality issues? I don't know what,
We would have to adjust the permit requirements, and we would have to then create that authority so that when there is a air quality alert, we'd have to define what air quality alert means, what level, and when it happens, and then they would have to consistently issue that directive. I can understand, folks, is when we first came along with recreational burn permits, there was concerns that when people were burning and other people have their windows open, and that has created conflict in neighborhoods where one person wants their evening fire pit permit, and the other one wants their windows open, and it's particularly smoky. I can understand area-wide, when the air quality is poor, having someone that is going to exponentially make the air quality worse, like right on your street, isn't helpful. But we would have to define, what it is we're trying to regulate and when they would issue those regulations. I don't recall them ever having to suspend citywide burn permits, though. At least I don't recall ever hearing that we've done it. We've taken one back, but I don't think we've ever said, for the next week, nobody can burn. So, we certainly could create that criteria, but it would be up to the department to decide when it's prudent to use it.
Yeah, we have when there has been wet, when it's been super dry, right? Then we have. But right, are you talking about we never have for air quality?
Right.
Right, and that's what the resident was asking, can there be anything put in place? So I guess that's up to whomever, but
Right.
this conversation made me think of that.
Right.
Because I've been meaning to.
Certainly a conversation we could have. I don't know, we've not, this is the first I've heard that we've had someone that was worried about the air quality contribution that the fire pit makes when the air quality is already poor. Usually if it's disruptive whether the air quality in general is good or bad. If someone has one next door, it's a problem regardless of what the other underlying air quality is because it's coming in their windows. Chief Blues.
The ordinance does say that fires that create an excessive intrusion of smoke into a neighbor's property shall be completely extinguished. So there is the ability, if somebody does have a fire that's producing a lot of smoke that's causing a problem in a neighbor's property, they can call and they'll be told to extinguish that fire if it's producing a lot of smoke.
Right. It starts as a police call, right? It's at least when we had it in the neighborhood where we had to revoke the one, I think it was, it starts with a police call, like a non-emergency police call. And then they go out and talk to the neighbor. It has in the past created neighbor-on-neighbor conflict, but sometimes the existence of the fire pit does anyway. But the rules are the rules. So, but of course, they manage burn permits. So not an inspections thing so much. But anything else, any other questions you have for Bill for his part of the presentation? If not, we'll place that presentation on file. Obviously, if questions come up from neighborhood groups or individual residents, and it's a question of like what's happening, has anything been happening? It's easy to circle back with Bill and have his team check and see if it's a house they're already working on. I found a number of times when I've reported stuff, they're already halfway down the process with the same house because they found it on their own. So,
Still call.
Still call?
Still let us know. 'Cause-
okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action on amending Wausau Municipal Code, Section 18.05.060, working without permit and penalty. Let me just switch the packet to that piece. And this is this is kind of a housekeeping thing, but it's an electrical permit, so working without the permit, rather than doubling, now triples the fee when they have to come and get that permit retroactively. So this is just kind of an adjustment to existing policy. Does anyone have questions on this one? Okay, if not, is there a motion to approve that adjustment? Motion from Watson, is there a second? Second from Lukens. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? None are opposed, that motion carries. Item 10 is the tavern activities report for the last month, and you've got that in your packets. Anything notable on the report, Captain Pauls, that you wanted to talk with us about?
Nothing notable. I did notice that we're maybe a month or two behind on updating some of our closed establishments to the ones that have reopened. So Cody was able to send me the list of the newest establishments. So we'll get those adjusted for September's report and get the newer ones on there and making sure that we are continuing our compliance checks with those.
Okay?
I would say in the activity log, as far as the incidents that did occur throughout the month, all of those were called in by bar staff, which is always a good thing, and our recommendation that they are doing that. So all of those were called in, which means no demerit points because
Right.
of those incidents. The other one that I wanted to point out was Hiawatha had a second no licensed bartender, or a second violation, this current one being the no licensed bartender. I did have a discussion with the owner within the last couple weeks, and he feels that that is not going to happen again. All of his employees have been licensed now. That one particular one that didn't is no longer employed there, so there should not be any further violations on his part.
Well, and that's the type of attention on the part of the owner. I mean, we don't want it to get to a point where they've got 100 points and they're here for a formal expression. If they can get out in front of it ahead, that's super productive and helpful. Also, I think it's important, we were just having this discussion today in another context about when the establishment calls. That's exactly what we want to see happen. And so just because they have a volume of calls doesn't necessarily mean it's a trouble spot. In fact, it means it's probably the owner and the staff being proactive to try to solve problems before they escalate. I mean, like in this case, you'll see on our list this month, a number of these things were fights. If they don't respond to a fight, or they try to bounce it out in the parking lot or try to handle it themselves, that can get dangerous really, really fast. So we always want them calling to get help with that situation before it's completely out of control. So, I mean, it is kind of a typical report in terms of what we see month on month, but it's good to see that those establishments are reaching out and getting that assistance when they need it, that they're not afraid to call or thinking that they'll be in trouble for calling, because we never want that. So, anything on the report that you guys have questions about? Okay.
If I could just also add, a few months back, Matt Brewer actually brought to the commission here the idea of coming up with some training videos for tavern owners and employees. So that was something that the police department, the fire department, and the Tavern Association, by allowing us to use some of the facilities in town to do the videos, worked through, and we have 5 videos that were produced. We would now love the opportunity to maybe show you guys a video or 2 at some point in time, just to kind of see. I think it's going to be a great learning thing that we could give to the Tavern Association for them to really just kind of facilitate training and discussions with their staff, as well as maybe as an option here to use them in some way. So if you guys would be interested, we would love the opportunity to maybe show 1 or 2 of those videos, or however many you guys feel the need to see at a meeting or 2.
I saw them today at Melinda's invitation. They are excellent. They're not long, but they're super informative. We talked about maybe looking at a couple other topics they can address through the same venue. One thing we talked about is maybe events and service and picnic licenses, and that maybe we could create something that goes out with the picnic license, because a lot of times what you'll find is servers there that are not necessarily experienced, routinely licensed or trained. And so to be able to say, here is your picnic permit and your event is approved, here's a quick video for your folks to watch on how to do these things and what to look for. Sometimes it's hard to recognize over-serving in a busy festival type setting also, but the videos they've made are really, really good. Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, Matt Brewer again. And, today I went and met with our board of directors. I'm on the board of directors for the Tavern League here in town. And they were ecstatic to hear how far along this has come. And I shared some of the updates. They can't wait to get their hands on the videos. And we were already brainstorming some ways that we might be able to utilize those. So just a huge thank you from the Tavern League and from, even just some local taverns around here that I got to share that with today, even just on my way here today. So really exciting that you guys are willing to participate and do this and partner with us. So thank you very much. And also we've offered to keep one of us here as often as we can get here to participate in any of this. So if there's ever anything you need from us, please feel free to always, you can call me directly and I can get one of us down here myself and even just participate in any of the things that go on with taverns and bars and any kind of liquor sales in the city of Wausau. So
Sure.
we're always willing to help, and we've got about over 200 bars on our that are part of the Tavern League. Not every bar is, as we strive to, because we usually try to create things like this in support of them. But just so you're aware, we're always willing to help and partner and do anything you might like.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks,
that's the
Al.
kind of relationship that we definitely want to have. And thank you for bringing the idea of training videos to us in the first place. A number of them were filmed at 101. So just really great that we have an owner that was willing to be proactive and be a part of, getting folks educated and, really helping us get that knowledge in the hands of people who are really on the front lines of it every day is, recognizing like when something is escalating, recognizing a fake ID, recognizing, overall safety, what to do in a medical emergency is one of them. I mean, there's just so many topics that they've addressed that I think people wonder about. So great effort.
Thanks, folks.
So thank you for coming. Any additional questions on the tavern activities report? If not, we'll place that report on file. The other item on our list is the community outreach update. We do not have Tracy with us this evening to give that report. And so she's on vacation, I believe. So with that, we can actually even hold that report for next month and just have her dive into a little synopsis of how things are going and where she's at with her, with her work next month, if you guys are good with that. We hear from her normally every month, but we've not heard that it's been going any different than it's been going in terms of the operation of the shelter and her daily work. So we'll hold that. And then with that, we would be out of agenda items, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Watson. Is there a second? Second by McElhaney. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No one ever is. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.